Hey everyone, and welcome back to the PTG Rail Routes Learning Series for Train Simulator. On today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at an updated version of the Portsmouth Direct Line, which is available on Steam Workshop, simply listed as Portsmouth Direct Line Updated. I'm going to be driving a newly scenerised section of this route between Woking and Alton, which is a distance of around 22.5 miles. When you purchase the Portsmouth Direct Line add-on on Steam, there's actually a lot more track there than just the Woking to Portsmouth Harbour section, but unfortunately it's only the Woking to Portsmouth Harbour section which was given scenery, so it's great to be able to drive on a different route on this add-on. So the journey today is following the real-life timetable of train 1 Alpha 09, which is the 6:58 AM southwest train service from Woking to Alton. And along the way, our stops will be at Brookwood, Ash Vale, Aldershot, Farnham, Bentley, and finally Alton. Our train for the journey today is a 4-car Class 450 Desiro electric multiple unit. The Class 450s have been in service since the 5th of October 2003 and were manufactured by Siemens at Krefeld in Germany. They were constructed between 2002 and 2006, and all units had entered service by 2006. A total of 127 Class 450s were produced, formed of 4 cars per train set. They have a maximum speed of 100 miles per hour, with a weight for each unit of around 170 tonnes. They run on the 750-volt DC third rail electrification system of the southern region in England. Once in the cab of the Class 450, literally the only thing that I need to do to set up ready for departure is to put the reversing handle into the forward position, which I've now done. Unfortunately, this is quite an old model for Train Simulator, so some of the features of newer trains haven't actually been implemented. Therefore, we don't have an AWS self-test sequence, and also we don't have a driver safety device. You can also see on the dashboard there that it appears that the driver reminder appliance might be illuminated, but again that hasn't been simulated on this unit. So now I have put it in forward, we are pretty much ready to depart. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of the controls here. So if I look down here now, you can see that I've got the combined traction and brake controller, and in this unit we have 5 steps of power above the off position, and then as you push this away from you, you've actually got a continuous smooth brake, which allows for some very precise brake applications. And if we move up here, you can see the brake gauge there, which normally when driving along I wouldn't go above sort of 2 to 3, but in this unit I need to go as high as 4 or 5 to slow down in any reasonable amount of time or distance. So as a result of that, you will see me braking a bit harder than usual. Another thing is that with the Class 450, the brakes are actually very spongy, as I would describe them, and you really don't slow down very quickly when driving with this unit. I have downloaded a brake fix from UK Train Sim, and I'm going to put a link as to where you can get that in the description of this video. I'm also going to put a link to the Steam Workshop for this particular route, the Portsmouth Direct Line Updated, in the description of the video. So here we've got the speedometer measured in miles per hour, our maximum speed being 100 miles per hour. Now on this journey today, the fastest we could possibly get up to is 90 miles per hour. Now I'm just going to quickly sound the horn. That's a 2-tone horn controlled with the spacebar and the B key, because I do actually have the Armstrong Powerhouse Desiro sound pack installed. So now that we've had a quick look at the cab controls, let's just take another quick look outside the train before departing and heading out towards Alton. Departing away from Woking, the starting speed limit here is 90 miles per hour, though it will shortly be dropping to 60 miles per hour for a short distance. And at this point we've got just under 4 miles to go to our first stop, which is Brookwood. I'm now in full power, accelerating up towards the speed limit. However, we've got some points that we're going to cross very shortly, which, whilst the posted speed limit here is 60 miles per hour, 60 seems just a little bit too fast for crossing these points. So I'm going to just now cut off the power and just apply the brakes, just to slow us down to closer to 40 miles per hour, just while we cross over these points, and then I'll accelerate once again. The line now going off to the left there is the Portsmouth Direct Line via Guildford, Hazelmere, Petersfield, Havant, and ultimately to Portsmouth and Southsea and Portsmouth Harbour. The speed limit here has now gone up to 90 miles per hour, so I've gone up to full power to start accelerating towards that now. What I'm going to be doing along here now is counting signals since the points that we just crossed. And so at the first signal, which will be coming up shortly, we've then got around 2.5 miles to go to our stop at Brookwood. We're now up to 80 miles per hour and getting closer to 90, and I see that we're actually catching up with the train to the right of us there, which is on the down first line. Just to point out, at this signal, the second signal, we've now got 2 miles to go to our stop. And I'm just going to cut the power back a couple of steps now to ensure that we don't end up breaking the speed limit. So at present we're actually on the southwestern main line, which runs from London Waterloo through Clapham Junction, Woking, Basingstoke and Winchester to Southampton, Bournemouth, Poole and ultimately Weymouth. We've now reached the third signal. At this point we've got 1.5 miles to go to our stop. What I'm looking out for now is a gantry which goes across the tracks in a moment. I'm going to start applying the brakes for our stop as we reach that gantry. In the meantime, I have just idled the power to allow the train to coast. And now we're just coming up on the gantry now. Now I'm going to start applying the brakes to between 4 and 5 on the brake gauge here. So, as I mentioned, we are running on the southwestern main line here, and the track that we're on currently is the down slow. Next to us is the down first, and then to the right of that you've got the up first and then the up slow. So the 2 southerly direction tracks are the 2 on the left hand side at this point, and then the 2 northerly direction tracks are the 2 tracks on the right hand side. Looks like I can now see Brookwood station just coming up. We may have slowed down just a little bit early, so I've just been reducing the braking here just until we get closer to the platform. Now I'm increasing the braking once again. Like with many stations on this route, I haven't seen any clear stop markers here at Brookwood for a 4-car train, so I'm just going to aim to stop just beyond the station building on the left hand side here. And so we should now be stopping in just about the right place. Departing away from Brookwood, the starting speed limit is still 90 miles per hour, and we are departing on a diverging route aspect signal, so I have a flashing double yellow there, indicating that we will be turning off the southwestern main line very shortly. At this point we've got around 4.5 miles to go to our next stop, which is Ash Vale. So at this point I'm just going to accelerate the train until I can actually see the next signal ahead, and then at that point I'm going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. I can now see the next signal just here, and so I'm just cutting the power off now to idle. For some reason that signal is blank. It should actually be displaying a flashing single yellow diverging route aspect. I do know in Train Simulator sometimes signals that should be flashing do come up blank, so it is a bug within the game. Of course, in real life, if you saw a blank signal, then you'd have to actually stop the train, treat it as red, and then contact the signalman and let them know what's going on and get permission to proceed and so on. I'm going to start applying the brakes now for an upcoming 35 mph speed limit, as I can now see the next signal coming up just here. The 35 limit comes into force shortly after this signal as we cross the junction here and leave the southwestern main line, what I believe is called Purbright Junction. So just down to 35 in time there. And so we're now crossing Purbright Junction, turning away from the southwestern main line on a 35 mph speed restriction with an uphill gradient here whilst we're on this curve. The uphill gradient is as steep as 1 in 54, so I am having to use some power to try and maintain the speed here and ensure that we don't lose too much speed. As you can see there, the speed limit is going up to 70 mph. However, it's soon going down to 60, so we won't be able to get up to 70 before we would need to slow down to 60 mph. And accelerate towards this 70 just before the signal there. So I'm now in full power. I'm going to bring us up to 60 mph. At this point, we've now got around 2.5 miles to go to our stop. As we're now reaching 60 mph, I'm just bringing the power down to try and maintain this speed. And I need to go between idle and notch 1 of power roughly to try and ensure that I don't end up breaking the 60 mph speed limit. We're now passing through a short tunnel, after which the speed limit will shortly be going up to 70 mph. So I'm just looking out for that increase towards 70 now. The speed limit's now going up to 70. We can accelerate at the overbridge just here, and at this point we've got around 1.25 miles to go to our stop. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to idle the power at this signal just here and allow the train to coast, and then I'm going to apply the brakes for our stop up to number 5 on the brake gauge at the second signal. We're now approaching the second signal after the 75 mph speed zone began, and so at this point I now need to start braking. As already mentioned, I will go up to 5 on the brake gauge. I need to be braking between 4 and 5 to bring our speed down in time. For now, I've chosen to go to 4.5 smack bang between the two, and I will adjust that as required as we get closer to the stop here. In fact, I'm just going to reduce that now as we're slowing down a little bit too early. Here at Ash Vale station, I'm aiming to stop at the S sign, which is at the end of the platform. So just reduced the braking to very light braking as I felt we were slowing down a bit too quick there. I'm now increasing the braking once again as we've entered the platform here. I'm just going to adjust the brakes up and down to try and bring us to a controlled stop at the end of this platform. we should now be stopped in about the right place. Departing away from Ash Vale, the speed limit is currently 70 miles per hour, and at this point we've got 2.5 miles to go to our next stop, which is Aldershot. As we now get closer to 70 miles per hour, I'm going to reduce the power. Ultimately, I need to go between idle and notch 1 of power at this stage to try and maintain a speed of close to 70. What I'm looking out for now is the next landmark along here is an electrical substation, which we're going to see on the left-hand side. So we're now passing the electrical substation, which indicates we've got 1 mile to go to an upcoming 50 mile per hour speed limit. At this signal just here, we've got just over half a mile to go to the upcoming 50 mile per hour speed limit. I'm going to idle the power now before we reach the third signal that you can see coming up ahead, so I've just put the power into idle here. And I'm going to apply the brakes for the upcoming 50 on the next AWS ramp. We are currently going uphill on a gradient of 1 in 120, which is actually aiding our deceleration. I've just increased the braking as I didn't think we were going to slow down quite quick enough. And we're now down to 50 in time for entering the 50 mile per hour speed zone. At this point we've got just over half a mile to go to our stop. Now passing through a short tunnel, and I'm just going to allow the train to continue to coast at this point. I'm going to apply the brakes just past this next signal to stop at our station, to stop at Aldershot, which is our next station stop. Okay, my words a bit jumbled there. Coming into the platform slightly faster than I would have probably liked, but that's okay, as we've still got enough time to slow down. Here at Aldershot there is actually a clear forecast stop marker, which is just before the footbridge you can see coming up just ahead. So this should be about the right place to stop. Departing Aldershot, the starting speed limit is 50 miles per hour, and we've got around 3 miles to go to the next stop, which is Farnham. As we're now getting closer to 50 miles per hour, I've just been pulling the power back to ensure we don't break the speed limit. The speed limit in a moment will be going up further to 70 miles per hour. In fact, I believe this is the 70 mile per hour speed post just here. so we can accelerate just after passing this overbridge. Now going to start accelerating up towards 70. At the 70 mph speed post, we had 1 mile to go to an upcoming 30 mph speed limit. We now have a warning for the upcoming 30, so I've just idled the power at this point to allow the train to coast. At the 30 warning, we had 3/4 of a mile to go to the speed limit, so I'm just waiting now until just after passing this signal. Now I'm going to start applying the brakes for the upcoming 30, and I've gone up to notch, well, should I say number 4 on the brake gauge there. Looks like I might have slowed down slightly too early, as I often do. Now I'm just braking again, as I can now see the 30 is just coming up. And so we're now down to 30 mph just in time here. I'm going to now allow the train to coast at 30 mph until the speed limit goes up further. The speed limit will shortly be going up to 60 mph. The speed limit is now going up to 60 mph. I can accelerate here at this signal, and at this point we've got just over a mile to go to our stop at Farnham. As we've now reached 60 mph, I've shut off the power to idle, and I'm just going to allow the train to coast along here. At this next signal coming up, I'm going to apply the brakes for our stop just shortly after this signal, at between 4 and 5 on the brake gauge. I've initially gone up to 4 there, and that actually seems pretty accurate to where I wanted it to be, to slow down in time for our stop. Just reduced temporarily to ensure we didn't slow down too quickly, and now I'm increasing the braking as we enter the platform here. I am looking at the 4-car marker on this platform, as there is thankfully a clear marker as to where to stop, which is coming up shortly on the left hand side. You can see it coming up there just after the next lamp post. So we should now be stopping in just about the right place. Departing Farnham, the starting speed limit is 60 mph, and at this point we've got around 4 miles to go to the next stop, which is Bentley. The speed limit will actually soon be dropping down to 50 mph, so at this point I'm not going to accelerate above 50, I'm going to coast once we reach 50 mph. And so we're now getting towards 50. I'm now going to pull the power back, ready to put the power handle into the idle or neutral position. And now I'm just allowing the train to coast along here at 50. just entered the 50 mile per hour speed zone. The speed limit will in a moment be going up further to 70 miles per hour. On the right hand side here, we're now passing Farnham Depot. And we're now at the start of single track running, where we're going to be running single track for most of the way through to Alton. So the speed limit's just gone up to 70 miles per hour, and I can accelerate just as we reach the rear of the signal you saw there on the right hand side. Now that we're reaching 70 miles per hour, I've just pulled the power right back to ensure we don't break the speed limit. I'm probably going to have to go between idle and step 1 of power to try and maintain this speed. We're now passing a distance signal, so a distance signal can only show green and yellow aspects. A distance signal cannot possibly show a red signal aspect. Coming up shortly will be a signal with a feather indication on it. As we pass the signal with the feather indication, we've then got half a mile to go to an upcoming 40 mile per hour speed limit and 2/3 of a mile to go to our stop. We've now reached the signal with the feather indication, so I've just idled the power. I'm going to allow the train to coast momentarily. Now I'm going to start applying the brakes just here, just waiting a few seconds after we pass the signal before trying to brake for the upcoming 40 mile per hour speed limits. So we got down to 40 miles per hour in time for the point here, which is where the 40 mile per hour speed limit came into force. And we're now coming up on Bentley Station. At Bentley Station, I couldn't see a clear stop marker, should I say. And so I'm aiming to stop just a little bit past the footbridge here. Departing away from Bentley, the starting speed limit is 40 miles per hour, and at this point we've got just under 5 miles to go to our next stop and final stop, which is Alton. Just pulled the power back for a moment to allow the train to coast. The speed limit has now gone back up to 70 miles per hour. Now we're back on single track, and I'm just accelerating there just before we reach the rear of the speed post that you can see on the right hand side there. I'm now just pulling the power back as we get closer to 70 miles per hour. I'm currently in step 2 and I'm now down to step 1 of power. It looks like we're still accelerating slightly, so I'm just going to idle for a moment just until we lose a couple of miles an hour, and then I will re-increase the power once again. Looks like we're actually still losing a little bit of speed even in step 1 power, so I've just gone up to step 2 just to bring our speed back up towards 70. We're now coming up on Hollybourne Oil Sidings, which is marked by this ground signal and the point just after it. At this point we've now got around 1 3/4 miles to go through to Alton. We now have a warning for an upcoming 15 mile per hour speed limit, which is just under a mile from here, with our stop being just over a mile from that point. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to continue along here for a moment. I'm going to idle and apply the brakes as we pass this overbridge just here. So I've now got the brakes on initially at 4 on the brake gauge, which is bringing our speed down quite nicely, though I may need to increase that yet if I'm not slowing down quick enough. But I'm going to do that temporarily just to ensure I am slowing down quick enough. Now just reducing the braking just to ensure that we don't slow down too quickly. I do know the 15 limit comes into force on one of these speed posts. It looks like it's not quite this one, as this is for a left-hand direction for 25 miles per hour. I'm just going to release the brakes for a moment and allow the train to coast. I see that the 15 mile per hour speed limit comes into force just after this point here, and so you actually had to be down to 25 in time for the point which we just crossed. Just bringing our speed now back up very slightly as we slowed down slightly too quickly here. You may have noticed some old coaches and an old locomotive on the left hand side. That's because here at Alton it's also home to the Mid-Hants Railway, which is a railway I've now visited twice, and I have to say it's quite a pleasant journey. It runs for I think something like 10 miles from here to a place called Earlsford, they run steam and heritage diesel services along there. Last time I was there was just a few weeks ago, and we got to travel behind a couple of steam locos, as well as a Class 50 in Network South East livery. And so there's a 4-car stop sign. We're just stopping next to that now, which should be stopping us in about the right place. And so here we are, arrival at Alton in Hampshire. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope that you have enjoyed it. If you did, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, for the latest channel updates, you can find me on Facebook with the link to my Facebook page in the description of this video. Also, if you'd like to sponsor me towards what I do on Patreon, then please visit the link in the description of this video. And finally, if you'd like to download the Portsmouth Direct Updated line, which is of course available on Steam Workshop, I'm also going to put the link to that route there so you know where to find it easily, and you can download this route and give it a go for yourself. So once again, thank you very much for watching.